Yes, I have loved you with an everlasting love, an everlasting love, an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness have I drawn you, drawn you, drawn you.
And we're recording.
Hi, this is episode 12, and it's simply called Halloween. We're going to talk a little bit about Halloween coming up and what we believe about that. And this is probably going to end up being in 2 different episodes because there's some other aspects of it that we can talk about more later. However, my first question here is, why does Halloween appeal to people? There are a couple of really fun parts of it. One of them is dressing up in costumes. That's fun for kids and adults. And like pretending to be whatever. And parties and games and all the fun parts of it. Now, if we provide more celebrations like that throughout the year where we can dress up and have our parties and our games, then people would not be tempted to participate in the bad parts of Halloween. And we're going to talk a little bit about what parts of Halloween we consider bad. But before that, I'm going to read a scripture in 1 Thessalonians 5:22. This simply says, abstain from all appearance of evil. Okay, now this actually can have 2 different meanings, and it's interpreted 2 different ways. One of them is to stay away from, every time you see evil, to stay away from it and to guard yourself against it and not participate in it. The other one is we're not supposed to have the appearance of evil, because for one thing that ruins our testimony that we're on God's side if we look like something that's devilish, let's say. There's a lot of things that are not portrayed as a good thing, but as an evil thing at Halloween. Now, some things are innocent, and some things are really fun and really cute, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some things that you would say it's an appearance of evil. And so, let's see here. Okay, so what are the evil parts of Halloween? I'm going to give a little bit of the history of Halloween, and then we're going to talk about some of the dangers of certain types of participations in Halloween. Okay, and I'm going to start with the 7th century, which is when it started to become celebrated. Now, All Saints' Day, or All Souls' Day, is a day the 7th century church set aside in memory of early Christians who died for their beliefs. It was first celebrated in the month of May. By the year 900, the date had been changed to November 1. Another name for All Saints' Day was All Hallows, which means basically the same thing, to hallow something, something to be holy, like they considered the saints as being holy people. And so then, because November 1st was All Hallows, then October 31st was known as All Hallows Eve, which was later shortened to Halloween. The Archbishop of Canterbury, England, set punishments for those, and this is a quote, who goeth about in the mask of a stag, of bull calf, those who by their craft raise storms, sacrifice to demons, consulteth soothsayers who divine by birds. The people described by the Archbishop worshipped a horned god. This god usually was a goat, bull, or ram, but sometimes a man or woman wearing skins and the head of an animal. During their magical rites, they would dance about in a circle, barking and howling. At midnight, using a bronze sickle, they would gather herbs. Spells were cast or enemies bewitched by sticking thorns into a wax model of the person. They also brewed love potions and concocted poisons. The skins of snakes and the saliva and intestines of animals were dropped into their cauldrons. The wings and entrails of bats also went into their brews. At the end of the ceremony, they sacrificed and ate the animal god. Their rites and ceremonies expressed their closeness to all animal life and their desire to help it grow. Although Christianity was spreading, the religion of the horned god continued in its popularity. To some, the services of the Catholic Church, with their rigid formalism, held less excitement for the people than the witch cult. Even after the people of Brittany became Christians, worship of the dead continued. During the Middle Ages, stone lighthouses, called lanterns of the dead, gave protection against malicious ghosts on All Hallows Eve. Okay, there's a lot more about it, but I just want to give a little background about it.
I wanted to go back to something in there, though, before you close that.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was so ironic here about they took the skins of snakes and the intestines of all these things and the wings, and they said, yeah, the rites and ceremonies, at the end of the ceremony, they're sacrificing and ate the animal god. Their rites and ceremonies express their closeness to all animal life and their desire to help it grow by killing it.
Yeah.
Killing all these different creatures in sacrifices and brews, and then killing the supposed animal god that they were worshiping.
So does that really make any sense?
It makes no sense whatsoever. And it's just like the animal sacrifices of the Old Testament. It's just the same kind of thing. It's just as wrong. It's so sad. But I thought that was very ironic.
Yeah, it didn't have a very good beginning the way it was celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still a lot of things that go on that are bad at Halloween. And even though some of us would want to just have fun and celebrate, which a lot of people do, unfortunately, it's also the high holy day for Satanism and witchcraft. And many terrible rituals take place, including sacrificing humans. The main problem with Halloween is that it celebrates fear and death. So I'm going to go over some scriptures about fear and about death. And then we're going to talk more about this and the fact that Satan is all about fear and death. And so unfortunately, that's a lot of what Halloween celebrations have become about. So anyway, first of all, with fear, I've actually read this one before because we talked about how fear is one of the tools of Satan. Okay, I'm going to read, this is Hebrews 2:14 and 15. make sure I'm in the right place. Oh, I was looking at 3. Okay. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. I had read this one before, but it's pointing out that fear and death are involved in this, because so many people spend their whole life afraid of death. And basically this is saying that Jesus tried to deliver us from that fear of death. So we should have to be afraid of death. And there's some reasons for that. Okay, and then there's another one about fear in Psalm 27. And I'm going to read 1 through 8 in there. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat at my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice, have mercy also upon me, and answer me. When thou saidst, seek ye my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. So that goes along with what we talked about, how if we seek the Lord, we'll find him. Okay, so those are some scriptures on fear, and then I have some on death. And I think I started to read one about death in John 8:44, but it'd be a good time to rehearse that, or review it, I should say. Okay, John 8:44. Oh, here we are. And this was Jesus talking to the Pharisees who kept tormenting him and acting like they knew God, but Jesus didn't, even though he was actually the Son of God. But Jesus said to them, ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Okay, let's see, is that it? Yeah. Okay, now I just want to insert here that since death is really of the devil, then I just wanted to mention all the things, if you notice, all the things about Halloween are a celebration of death, murder, gore. Think about some of the costumes and decorations that are all over the place at Halloween. It's all about celebrating death. And so that's really of Satan, because Jesus wanted to set us free from having to be afraid of death. And so those things shouldn't, have to be something to be scared of. Okay, and then I'd also read John 10:10 before. I'm going to find that one again. Okay. This is the one that said, "The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly." And I'm going to actually read more this time. I'm going to read 11, then 17 through 18. "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep." So he's talking about the good shepherd would lay down his life for the sheep. And Jesus was saying he would do that. And then down further he said, "Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father." So this is talking about Jesus' resurrection from the dead after he had died. And then also there's a promise that because of that we can be resurrected as well. And so that's going to be the last one I read, 1 Corinthians 15, 20 through 26. And that's about us being raised from the dead. If we're a follower of Christ, if he can raise himself from the dead, he can raise us from the dead as well. You're getting weird over there. You have something to say?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Maybe you were just burping or something.
But yawning.
Oh, yawning. Okay. Well, I guess that's all right. Okay, where am I? Okay. 1 Corinthians 15. Here it is. No, that's not 15. That's Acts 15. Okay. See, this is better than trying to keep all those bookmarks in my Bible and having them all fall out and really get me lost. So that's why I'm just looking them up. I'm looking up the references as I go. Okay, so 1 Corinthians 15. All right, and I'm going to read 20 through 26. Okay. "But now is Christ risen from the dead and become the firstfruits of them that slept. For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. But every man in his own order, Christ the firstfruits, afterward they that are Christ's at his coming. Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. For he must reign till he hath put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death." So you can see how Christ is all about life and faith and trust in God instead of fear. So that's what the point I was going to make is. Satan is the opposite, and he's all about fear and death. And so unfortunately Halloween has become an easy day for Satan to try to perpetuate his agenda for people, and that's why so many terrible things go on. And we're going to learn more about which type of things people sometimes participate in at Halloween that can cause problems and be dangerous in some ways for us. And so we're going to cover more about that next time. But right now, I want to have a discussion with Chastity about how Halloween affects each of us. And so I'm going to let you talk first about how it affects you when you have to go through the merchandise at Walmart that's for Halloween, and how it affects you.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've had to stock all these Halloween things, and a lot of these things are meant to look scary. You know, these ghost and monster masks, and then the worst I think is like these knives what they're in these plastic cases that have like this red fluid, meant like it's supposed to look like blood. And I think, under what context would anybody want to go around with some toy knife that looks like it's covered in blood?
Yeah, so it's celebrating murder
Yeah.
and gore.
Well, and it's so far from who I am in my philosophy because there is no context, especially for a vegan. See, there is no context in which I would be stabbing some living being with a knife, or shooting them with a gun, or committing violence in any way. And so the very concept that I've had to stock these things with the idea that people are going to come buy this stuff, honestly, that just offends me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's very sad because the fact that we have a national holiday where we're celebrating death, and then
violence.
Well, yeah, violence, and about the violence. Well, if you think about it, because people are conditioned in multiple ways to condone violence. First of all, Halloween. When people are celebrating Halloween, it teaches people, oh, violence and killing is fun. Let's dress up as a bunch of murderers and weird stuff.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And let's scare each other.
Well, and then these same people who will celebrate Halloween, then when real violence happens, like the shooting of Charlie Kirk recently, or some of the other shootings, like there was the Mormon guy who got shot. People are getting shot all the time.
Yeah.
And so then when real violence happens, then some of those same hypocrites will then talk about how horrible it is. I'm like, look, you were just literally celebrating death on Halloween, and then you're going to act like real violence is not okay. Then why is pretending the violence okay?
Right.
You know, and I don't see it as any different.
Right. That's why I quoted that scripture about to avoid the very appearance of evil. Why would you want to look like you're a murderer?
Well, yeah, and also, I think this is worth mentioning, too, is, I mean, you read a bunch of Bible verses, but see, that only applies to the Christians and or Jews who accept these parts of the Bible as valid. But I don't think somebody has to be a Christian or even believe the Bible at all in order to see what's wrong with Halloween.
Right.
It's right before our eyes.
Yeah, if you're sensitive to it, but you know, these horror movies, that makes us insensitive. And just, you know, and even video games that are real violent. All those things, they desensitize us toward those things, whereas the rest of the time we realize these are evil things that we don't want in our lives.
Yeah. And another thing about these horror movies and certain video games is they give people an idea of what evil looks like. But evil doesn't always come in some form that looks evil, like you're going to see in some cartoon or some horror movie.
Right.
In fact, this is sort of relevant. There is this song somebody recently published. I don't know the title of it, but it goes, "You think the devil has horns? Well, so did I, but I was wrong. His hair is combed and he wears a suit and tie." And I think the message is that evil doesn't always come in the form of a horned devil of some kind. I think the message is that sometimes somebody can look like a regular person. They can be dressed nice, and they can talk like a regular person, but they can still have evil intentions, and they can still be controlled by the devil.
Right.
And so I think the danger in some of this media is that it gives people the idea, oh, this looks like evil. Meanwhile, there's other evil that may not look like what they're expecting, but is actually worse.
Just like how Satan sometimes appears as an angel of light. He tries to appear as something good.
Yeah.
And he tries to tell people, I'm your friend. I'm here to help you get what you want.
Right, appears as some kind of friend.
Yeah.
And another thing, like about those sacrifices with the animals, the Halloween and all that.
Yeah.
What I really don't like is it's very insulting to the animals too, because besides the fact that they're killing these animals and using all their body parts and their potions and weirdness,
it's kind of weird.
It's really gross too. But there's also the fact that this idea that having these satanic things that are like horned animals, like rams and bulls and stuff. I don't like that, because this idea that the devil has horns like some kind of animal like that, I don't like it, because it's insulting to the animals to be compared like that. It's giving the message, oh, well, these animals are evil, and in turn that helps to devalue their lives, and then justifies more killing of animals, like their lives don't matter. And so I have this whole vegan perspective of it, where it's like, most people are not seeing just how offensive that actually is.
Yeah. Well, now, that's the point, too. This idea that Satan has horns and carries a pitchfork, okay, that's totally fictional. That is not the way Satan is. And that's why people think he's just a funny, make-believe character. And that he's even, he's just kind of humorous because he's horned, because they think of animals as predatory. And so it's kind of like they're making fun of the idea that Satan is a predator, which he actually is in a lot of ways. But people don't take it seriously then, because they think, oh, this is just as fictitious as Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. It's like all these things, are just made up, and then they don't take it seriously. Like I was saying, talking about these two kingdoms, there are some real spiritual entities, and they're not just make-believe, and they're not fun. They're very serious things. But I understand what Chastity is saying about it makes it look like animals are just dangerous, and they're not necessarily dangerous. And even the ones that are considered predators, we believe that it's because they tried to survive that way, some of them, and they passed on. Their parents passed on to them that you have to hunt to survive. And they continued it on and taught their, cubs or whoever that to be that way. But if you find out a lot of things that really happen in the wild, a lot of times these animals can be very compassionate. And people just expect them to be ferocious predators, and sometimes they have the opportunity to be, but they choose not to be.
Well, in fact, just a few days ago, I saw this story. There was this girl who was being kidnapped and in like some sex trafficking thing in Africa or somewhere. And these 3 lions heard her screams and chased off the men who had captured her, and scared them all away, and then guarded that girl until the police were able to eventually find her.
Yeah.
And then they left, and then she was able to go back to her family.
Yeah.
In that case, those lions totally protected that girl and just chased out those humans.
Yeah.
And another thing is, see, those lions, they're used to eating certain species of animals that they eat. Like they will eat, certain wild animals that they're used to seeing, but they don't typically see humans as food, partly because for generations there were no humans. They only saw other animals. So they don't see humans as food, but when they saw those humans were hurting that girl, then they're like, well, they wanted to stop that.
Yeah, and I've been I'm watching some documentaries about animals who ordinarily would see, like there have been like baby animals that lost their mother, or some catastrophe happened, or poachers had killed the mother, and they'll find a baby of another species that ordinarily would be considered prey. However, instead, they adopt them, take care of them, and they protect these little animals that are of totally other species. And this happens more often than you'd realize in the wild, but there have been people doing studies of these animals out in the wild and taking notes, and they're surprised because they've learned that all animals are just really dangerous to one another, and they're just predators, and then they observe some of the compassion these animals have toward animals they wouldn't have to be compassionate, but they see them in distress, just like they were with that girl, or there's 3 of them, right?
There was 3 lions defending 1 girl.
Oh, 1 girl, okay. Yeah, they will notice other creatures, other species that are in distress, and they'll take care of them. And there's been many situations like that. Whereas instead of just, even though they're hungry and they could use them as prey, they choose not to. They actually have compassion, and they take care of them, and they adopt them. And then if they're a species that really needs to be with their own kind, and be part of a different herd in order for their well-being later on, after they take care of them, they make sure they get integrated into, their species. And then these surrogate mothers of another species will watch from afar to make sure they're okay. And they have to separate, but they take good care of them for so long and sacrificially take care of these baby animals. And it's like, how could there be so much compassion with these animals if they were just born to be predators? I think they were made that way by their environment, and then they passed that on because they felt like that's what they had to do to survive. So they teach their young to hunt and prey. And it's interesting because the Bible does teach that in God's new kingdom, no creature will harm another. It says that the lion will lie down with the lamb. And they won't, and it won't attack the lamb. They'll all get along, and it says, that nobody will hurt anybody else in God's kingdom. And so that's the way it's supposed to be. And I don't believe that at the beginning in the Garden of Eden, these animals ever harmed one another until sin came into the world, and then they had to be afraid of people, and then one thing led to another. And it's just all a part of the world being corrupted. And so it's true. It is an insult to act like these horrible creatures and pretend like you're this vicious monstrosity that's an animal.
Yeah, and it's weird. See, hate has to be taught. Mm-hmm. People have said that before. I think it's true. It's like, humans have learned to hate humans of other types as well as animals, but then there are those cases where there will be some human child that's lost and ends up being raised by wolves or raised by gorillas or something.
That happens too.
And so then they end up being as one of them, and then unlike the other humans of society that are trying to kill these animals, they just see those animals as their family instead.
Right.
Like I do.
Many of them adopt a different species.
Yeah.
And take care of them for years and years until that baby child doesn't need them in the same way anymore, and they still will make sure they get taken care of, even if it means letting go of them and letting them be part of another herd. So, yeah, I mean, it's true. We were just looking at some of Chastity's baby pictures. And all these babies come into the world so innocent. And they don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And they only learn to be horrible and hateful by what they see around them. The examples set for them. And so that's why a lot of children, they get abused, they get corrupted in different ways, and they don't start out that way. And so that's true of people, that's true of other animals. And so anyway, that's a very good point.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that's very important, to separate the guilty from the innocent. For example, now there was some recent statement, I don't know if it was the Pope or it was some other weird Catholic dude, but supposedly this person said that a person cannot be pro-life and also for the death penalty.
Oh.
And now here's the thing is, I understand what they were going for, but I also think that statement, it dismisses there's the difference between an innocent baby who most of the time hasn't even been born yet, who could not have possibly done anything wrong, because first of all, until you can walk or talk, you don't have a chance to do anything evil. And then somebody else who has perhaps actually done crimes, or maybe some of these people in prison are innocent, and that's why maybe we should be hesitant about the death penalty. But but noticing that the guilty people who have done wrong and the innocent who have not done wrong are different groups of people. And it's the same with humans, it's the same way with animals. There's those that are dangerous and those that are not. And quite honestly, to take a group of people, whether those people are humans, lions, bears, or cows, and then say they're all evil, kill them, that's just racism repackaged. Speciesism, sexism, racism, taking a group of people like the transgender people. Oh, they're all shooters, It's that same idea.
Right. Anyway, so the point is, there are evil sides to the way Halloween is celebrated. And it'd be nice if we could just turn it into a totally wholesome, good, healthy holiday. But I think it's probably too far gone for too many evil people to participate in it. So much so that we do need to be on our guard and make sure we only celebrate the good parts and find an alternative. Sometimes I know some churches who realize that there's wicked parts of it. They'll provide alternatives sometimes in their church, and they'll have like a harvest festival. And I think that's good. But I noticed that some of them still let people wear horrible costumes. However, a lot of them will let people know that these kids could dress up like Bible characters or something else innocent. And then it's totally out of the evil realm. And they can just have fun and enjoy participating in, dress up and doing all sorts of fun things. But unfortunately, a lot of people go to parties where they use Ouija boards and do seances. And see, next time we're going to talk more about some of these dangerous activities that people don't realize. They think it's just innocent fun. But there's many things that are not innocent fun. They're dangerous in a lot of ways, and that's why we're going to have to cover this in two parts, because I didn't want to get into all the specifics about those things at this point, because I wanted to let people know there's nothing wrong with the good parts of it, and we should provide that kind of fun for people. But at the same time, we need to watch out, because unfortunately there's a lot of bad things going on. And like I said, the Satanists and the witches, they take advantage of that to be their high holy day where they do all kinds of horrible things. And I'm more aware of this, I guess, because I got raised in the occult, but I've done a lot of study about it too. And I know that some terrible things go on. And a lot of people especially pray during that time so that to ward off a lot of the bad activities and the things that cause some people to become victims. And it's true. I mean, these sacrifices a lot of times are both animals and humans that are mistreated. And so that's just to be aware that there are some aspects of it that we need to deal with and warn ourselves and other people about. And since Halloween's coming up, we felt like this ties right in with what we've been teaching about the two kingdoms and about God's kingdom and Satan's kingdom. And it's just another thing to become aware of. And that's why, I'm going to present a little bit more of specific things that we can watch out for and be aware of, so that we don't get sucked into any of these activities that are dangerous and harmful in a lot of ways. And that's why it is good to provide all the good, positive things about it. and enjoy those things, and even teach our children to participate in the good, wholesome kind of fun, so that they don't get told by their friends, well, let's go have a seance, or let's play with a Ouija board, which isn't really a game. And there's other things too that people don't realize how bad and harmful they are, and that's why I need to teach more about that. But I know a lot of preachers condemn all of it. They say, well, just don't celebrate it. Well, that's not necessary.
Well, actually, I disagree with them saying that. Here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, a lot of people, when they go vegan, they make the mistake. They think that, they think that going vegan just means their same diet minus the meat, dairy, and eggs and stuff like that. But you can't just take something away. You have to add something in its place to replace. So you're getting your nutrition and all that the same way to replace what you're losing. So you can't just take away people's Halloween fun. You have to give them alternatives. First of all, why is it only socially acceptable to dress up in costumes on that day?
Right. That's why I was saying, why can't we do that kind of thing throughout the year?
Yeah.
Have costume parties, but dress up in good, fun things, but not participate in things like that.
Yeah, and I find it interesting because there are a lot of transgender people who the reason they like Halloween is because that is a time where they can dress as what they think they want to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if anybody criticizes them, they can just pass it off as Halloween jokes.
Right.
That way, they get to try it out without really the consequences.
And people just think it's funny.
Yeah.
When somebody, it's a comedy when somebody dresses up like the opposite gender. But boy, you don't dare do that in public in some settings.
I know.
Or people get mad and they target you.
I know. And you know what? Can we just talk about how society has lost its sense of humor?
Yeah.
Like, take for example, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire is still one of my all-time favorite movies. And I think it was actually a very wholesome movie in a sense because, look, this guy, he wanted to spend time with his kids, and that whole situation was sad. And so he was willing to dress as a woman so he could be the housekeeper and be with his kids.
Right.
There was actually nothing wrong with that. But people were able to laugh at it because just how convincing Robin Williams was as an old woman, that was what made it funny. And I feel like, yes, we should be able to laugh because sometimes people do look ridiculous. Yeah. But at the same time, it should not be where they're hated for it.
Right. And see, that's another point that I hadn't mentioned about Satan. He has no sense of humor. So the more we laugh and are joyous and do things that are wholesome and enjoy life and comedy and all that, the devil can't stand that.
Yeah.
And we knew somebody, don't mention any names, but we knew somebody that was pretty much demonized. And they would act up. But then when Chastity would start singing, it really threatened the devil.
Uh-huh.
And say, don't sing! And would get upset. See, because the devil doesn't want us to be joyful and happy and laugh and sing. And he really can't stand it when we praise God. So whenever I feel like I'm being oppressed in some way by the devil, that's a perfect time to turn on my joyous praise music and focus on God, and it just makes the devil run away. Just like when we resist him, he flees. When we play praise, happy music, the devil runs away. He can't stand it. He's on the opposite side of God, and God wants us to be happy. And God has a sense of humor. There's a lot of places in the Bible and in life where you can see that Jesus had a sense of humor, and God's not just an austere grandpa in the sky with a long beard looking to punish people. But that's the impression people have of God.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants us to be joyful because he's a joyful person, and love produces joy.
Yeah. That's the thing about it is being able to sing and listen to music. That's the thing I actually need to do more of lately, because I've been getting depressed lately, and I just that's one of the best ways to fight depression, is just listen to some happy music, because it can distract you from things, because I don't think you can really have good music when you are just filled with evil and have no sense of humor, and just no joy.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of good, clean, happy fun we can have as long as we avoid the evil and just follow God and stay open to him, and then we don't have to give into fear, and we don't have to celebrate death. Now, I want to mention that because of my background, it used to really trigger me. I still don't like it, but it used to really trigger me just to see some of these Halloween decorations all over the place, because they celebrate death. And some of them are worse than others, because some of them actually do remind me of some of the horrors I went through as a child, being raised in a satanic cult. And some of these things are too real or remind me of some really bad memories. And so how does that help anybody to put some of these horrible images of death and gore, and they think it's funny, and you see it everywhere? Now, I do better with it now, but I still don't like it. But it took me a long time to not let Halloween bother me for that reason. And now I cope with it better. And like Chastity was saying about why can't we do the opposite and celebrate the right things. And one year I did try to have a special party with Chastity and one of her friends. I thought, well, since it's all about fear and death, how about we turn it around and have a party about life and light and faith. So we did. It was all about light. It was about trust and faith in God and happiness. And instead of even having a jack-o'-lantern, because that's another thing, the history of jack-o'-lanterns we'll be learning a little bit about. Now, frankly, it doesn't bother me if people want to light up a pumpkin, as long as they don't put all kinds of scary, awful faces on it, trying to scare people. Now, there's actually a history to how that got started, too, which is weird.
It's about the face you put on it.
Yeah, and I remember when Chastity was little and would see those things, I'd say, well, a pumpkin's a pumpkin no matter what you do to it. And then I heard her comment to other people saying, a pumpkin's a pumpkin no matter what you do to it. Because I said, well, God made pumpkins, and Chastity just loves pumpkin pies. So what I did is I made pumpkin pies for my Light and Life party. And we had a good, fun party, and we did it on Halloween while other people were doing all kinds of other things. And I know that they enjoyed doing what we did. So we had good games and a lot of fun, and that's just it. Instead of making kids feel deprived of all the fun, parents need to provide more fun for their kids so they don't miss all that other stuff that they shouldn't be involved in anyway.
Yeah. At Walmart, they have these things. They're not real pumpkins or watermelons, but they're like made of some kind of plastic where you can carve them. But then they'll just stay like that because they won't die, because they're not a real food. So you could just use them year after year.
Oh, so they aren't real watermelons?
They're not real. They're just made of plastic watermelons and pumpkins that you can carve the same as you could those things.
Yeah.
But since they don't die, you can use them year after year.
Yeah, why not put a happy face on them?
Exactly.
Instead of some mean, wicked look like I'm gonna scare everybody with my pumpkin face. Anyhow, so yeah, there's a lot of evil things we need to watch out for, but at the same time we should be able to enjoy and have fun and not. That's why I don't condemn people who celebrate it, as long as I just warn them that be careful how you celebrate it. Because like I said, some of these preachers are saying, oh, just don't participate at all. Well, why not transform it into something good and healthy? That's really what we should be doing with anything going on. That's the best way to avoid the evil. Just like Chastity said, replace it with something good.
Yeah. There are better things people can do.
Right. And Chastity talked about singing. She could really sing and have fun. And she'll sing and dance and have some fun. And that's when she's at her happiest, too. And so that's true. And it fights the devil off. You know, praise and happiness and thanksgiving. Let's just have joy. And stay away from all the evil and the death and the fear. And just stay strong in God. And just let the devil run from you instead of you being scared. So, you got anything else to say? Do you have any more jokes like you usually have? You usually have some pretty weird jokes.
Yeah, let's see. I was trying to think of something. What was it? What was it that happened? There was always something funny happening at work or something like that. Huh.
Anything related to Halloween or fun or laughter or... Now, you did tell me that there were some real innocent, cute costumes there, too.
Yes,
that
actually.
you really liked.
Okay, yeah, so I actually bought one myself. I forgot where I put it in my room, but at some point I'll try it on. It's like a sailor outfit. So it has like a blue skirt and like a white shirt. It has like a red ribbon. It's like a traditional sailor. I don't think they wear those anymore, but like a traditional sailor uniform.
Yeah.
So I got that, but they also had other cute things. For example, they had this one where it's like two people wear it. They each look like dressed as a slice of bread, but one of the bread looks like it has peanut butter, and the other side it looks like it has jelly on it. So, like, it will have like a couple, two people wearing it. So the implication is one of those people is the peanut butter, and the other is the jelly, and they go together to make a complete sandwich. That's basic.
Yeah.
That's basically for couples who want to be seen as a complete sandwich.
Yeah, there's some real clever things that can be a lot of fun.
And they have, you know, the Disney princesses and stuff like.
Yeah, and you know, I used to let you dress up as a unicorn.
Yeah.
When they were having special days, you know, where the employees could dress up. I know they used to do that when she worked at Hy-Vee. And she would dress up like a unicorn. I got her unicorn costume.
This is funny. So I used that at work because we were demoing. I was giving out samples of the Bang energy drink. It was called Rainbow Unicorn. And so I go in with my unicorn suit. I'm wearing that at the table, giving samples of this drink to people, and I'm singing, always I want to be with you, and make believe with you, and live in harmony, harmony, oh love. And the only reason that, like, you wouldn't get why that particular song is funny, but there was a game called a Robot Unicorn Attack, where you had a robotic unicorn that had a rainbow mane and tail. It was where you jump over things, and it was so cute. But then I was singing that song in Hy-Vee, dressed as a unicorn, giving samples of this energy drink, which is actually very good. People said it tasted kind of like a combination of Sprite and Skittles.
Uh-huh. Now, see, I told you, Chastity could sing. And now you feel a lot better, don't you?
I do feel better.
It cheers you up when you sing.
In spite of the fact that we were talking about fear and death for most of the past hour.
Well, we're talking about replacing it with good things. And
Yeah.
you started singing.
Yep. It started out rough, but it got better.
It always does. Usually, if we're talking about something very solemn and serious, then we need our comedian to provide that comedic relief.
Yeah, and you know, I imagine in future episodes we're probably going to be talking about other holidays too, because there's a lot of messed up holidays.
Yeah. Now, I think that Halloween's the worst because it's all about evil things. You know, most of it is at least. But, you know, like I'm careful, like even with Christmas, I love Christmas and there's a lot of good things about it. But if there's too much emphasis on things that detract from God and Jesus and His birth and what it means, a lot of times I avoid, like when there's such an emphasis on Santa Claus, almost like Santa Claus is being worshipped instead of God. There's certain things that I avoid. I mean, I don't condemn anybody else that thinks that's okay. But there are certain traditions that I don't tend to think are the best, and I try to emphasize the good things. And so that's true with any holiday. A lot of holidays have been turned into something, you know, or come from pagan roots. But I just really have more concern about Halloween being probably the worst celebrated holiday of the year. And that's why I'm making such an emphasis, especially when I've just been teaching about spiritual warfare and the reality of that. And then Halloween's coming up. So I thought that we did need to address that. And hopefully we'll have some that are not quite as serious. It's just been necessary to bring those things up at this point. So, but we're still going to enjoy ourselves. We're still going to have fun. Chastity will probably sing again because everything reminds her of some song.
Yep.
So, anyway, thank you for being a part of this and just listening to us and thinking the stuff through along with us. And we'll continue it next time with our more further teaching about this subject. Now, we may have to sometimes, because Chastity's schedule at work is getting a little bit messed up, we may have to find other days to do our podcast. But we're going to do our best to just keep it going and do the best we can, because we feel like this is something God wants us to do, and we're hoping that it's making a good impact on everybody.
Yeah, so subscribe on whatever platform you're on, because you never know when we might surprise you with a new episode. We don't even know.
That's true. Week by week, we kind of do what we feel like God wants us to do. And so we'll all be surprised. Hopefully it'll all be a good surprise each time.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Yes, I